at London Fashion Week, we worked with a brand. They created a product, the caps weren't selling. So you can orchestrate what occurs to the product and what it can do. So effectively, we turn on the product and we allowed the product to become the ticket for entry for the London Fashion Week party. The caps sold out. So with inventory, you can really play. You can understand so much more from a data perspective.
That is Leanne Young, co-founder of London-based tech company IoDF. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Create Tomorrow podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli, head of consumer forecasting at WGSN. Every 2 weeks, I will take you on a journey to examine how trends are translated into aesthetics and product design. In this episode, we'll hear from Kat Taylor and Leanne Young, co-founders of London-based tech company IoDF. Together, we discuss their work on digital product passports, which are scannable codes that unlock traceability, as the EU phases in new regulations between now and 2030. As these passports become embedded into our garments, they will reshape how customers relate to their clothing, transforming disposable items into traceable, story-rich assets. Kat, let's start with you. I'd love it if you could please tell our listeners who you are, what you do, and a bit about your career journey so far as well.
So I'm the Chief Creative Officer of IoDF Platform. My background is very much in creative direction, strategy, consumer experience, and brand building. And my day-to-day at the moment is honestly everything that you can put into a tech business. We do it. We are like, I've got multiple brains, multiple heads, and yeah, that's me.
Amazing. Thank you. And what about you, Leanne?
Hi there. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of IoDF Platform. I suppose now on a day-to-day, we're concentrating very much on emerging tech and what that means from the creative industries from a fashion perspective, and working predominantly in compliance and all of the innovation layers that come from that. So we're kind of very deep in working policy groups, compliance when it comes to sustainability and what that means on a SKU level to brands, but also how we can build direct ROI for brands, which is one of the most exciting opportunities for us, is actually how to work through the pain points of the industries. They're quite archaic fashion industry. There's loads of pain points within it. So how we can break those down and actually deliver ROI for those brands as they step into the new compliant thresholds that are coming in 2027. So we've got very full days at the moment, but they're fun, they're informative, and we're learning a lot also as founders in the space.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about digital product passports. There's a lot of noise around it right now, so I think that was a perfect segue to introduce the topic. Thank you. The EU, as you mentioned, is phasing in new regulations between 2026 and 2030. It will begin with products like batteries and then move on to textiles in the next couple of years. That said, in simple terms, what role do digital product passports play beyond compliance in your guys' view?
In our view, we very much think that if something is mandated to all products for it to be connected, then we may as well make the most of it. And that's what we're going to try and help brands make the most out of the fact that every single product is going to be tappable and accessible to the consumer. At the moment, brands, they design, produce, sell, and then it's done. Like as soon as they sell that product, it's left the store and they've lost that communication layer and connectivity with the product and the consumer. So we're very much on the thought mass that if we're embedding something into a product anyway, we're going to create a new cycle. So you're designing, producing, selling, and it turns it into managing that product and monetizing off it. And then that cycle repeats. So we see it as a way of it's compliance, but it's turning it into connectivity.
So this is the Create Tomorrow podcast. I'm curious what you think Create Tomorrow means in the context of these digital product passports, right? Let's jump ahead to say 2030. Imagine we're living in 2030 right now. What do our relationships with products as consumers here? What does that look like? And how will the shopper journey evolve and transform during that time?
There's a real opportunity for brands to earn more by selling less, which is the whole resale, repair, trade-in cycle that Katy was discussing. But also from from a brand perspective, being able to have data and insights that can inform your decision making processes and when you're on the studio floor is so important, particularly for the planet. It means that there's less SKU production, because at the moment it's very much you produce a collection, you hope and pray that it can be inspiring enough for people to go out and shop it. Alongside that, there's loads of media spend that you put against that. There's the influencer partnerships that you build out. And actually the ROI and the kind of the cost acquisition is getting higher and higher, but the engagement rate is getting slower and slower. For us, it's like when it comes to what is the customer journey look like, there's the opportunity to resale, but possibly before you resale, what does it mean if you can see if that product's trending or not? So if we fast forward to 2030, that you're, as a customer, which is what we've built into our platform, you can see when a product's trending. Some products on the resale marketplace have a big flux because, say, Zendaya's worn it, like in the streets of LA, and all of a sudden that one product is trending massively. There's a big fight to see who can get that on Vinted, Vestiaire, Depop. And so as a brand, you'll be able to really capitalize on those moments by having that live data insight. But as a customer, you'll be able to also see when's a good time to trade in or resale that item. So data is really important here, both on a customer perspective as well as a brand. And I think for a lot of time it's very much been about how can the brand get more data on you, but actually as a customer, how can you have more data about your product when it's trending, who's wearing it, and how does that feed your what is the worth in that for you. So I think what we're doing and what we love doing at IoDF platform is very much every single stepping stone, work out how we can do more for the customer as well for the brand. And if you do enough for the customer, and if you do enough to build enough correct terms for the customer want to be able to have that interaction point, that then services the brand. So it's the balance of those two, which I think is what we're really excited about and what we do really well.
It's so interesting because that phrasing is just the opposite of what we as consumers have come to know, right? It's always that brands are extracting from you, but actually you could be extracting from the product. And I think in this world with this infrastructure that you're creating, the product essentially works harder. Is that correct? Like it's doing the job for the business.
There was a report that stated that 60% of Gen Z and millennials say that if resale is embedded into the product, they would trust the brand further, they would trust the product further, and retaining that value of that product. People want to know that that product is resellable before they buy it. That's like a new trend that is emerging. People are less likely to buy, let's say, a cotton t-shirt if the chances are that it's not going to retain that value and be resold for the same amount, if not more.
I want to ask, how does it work? So imagine that some people on the call might not be familiar with how a digital product passport might work. Could you explain it in very simple terms what, this future interaction with product might look like?
Yeah, so essentially you would have a product that you own, and somewhere on that product will be a scannable chip or QR code, which you can link with your phone simply by tapping or taking a photo of the QR code. And it opens out into a specific product brand experience. And that is specific to your individual product. It could have layers of it that are compliance level, which explains how the garment was made, which factories it was produced in. And then there could be layers of loyalty, of membership. It could be essentially this product becomes a platform. It's interoperable. It's never static. Brands can feed in information, new opportunities, new benefits, campaigns, events that you could be able to go to. If you buy this product, you could have the capacity to go to a London Fashion Week event, for example, or who's got these Nike running trainers. If you've got this specific model, check your shoe and you're invited to this running event next week. So it's essentially a product that is tappable, scannable, that opens out into this specific product world that is specific to your product and who you are as a customer.
So the product essentially unlocks access, it unlocks information, it could potentially transform how we understand transparency in supply chains and things of that nature. You could tell stories about who actually built your product. Is that right?
It's very much there to help the customer, like in terms of services. Like if you want to talk to a brand, sometimes there is a bit of a struggle where you have to log into the brand site and like maybe you can talk to a chat box, whereas this is a specific product page where all of the opportunities are there. Like if you want to resell it, you can. If you need to trade it in, if you need to get care and repair, if you need if there's a hole in your trainer, there can be repair services that are woven directly into that product passport. So it's creating a product that is seamless, effectively to benefit the use and the value of it, as well as one of the most important things is just to authenticate the product, because a lot of people buy products, and they're not real, and you think they are. So this is a way that it basically the authentication is embedded within the passport and passed on throughout all of its different owners.
So this is essentially how a business restores trust, right? Trust is broken. This could, really ground them in what they're saying. Climate communications have to be real because you could see it in real time, what's not vetted and what's not. Does it end greenwashing?
I think that's one of the most exciting points. And like when, 2.5 years ago, when we were discussing DPPs, it was, we looked at each other like, oh my God, does this end greenwashing? And I think that's like what's so exciting. We're in an all-time low when it comes to trust from customers and consumers to brands. And it's because of various, reasons. But I think one of the big things is greenwashing, and it's been a real kind of stain on the industry. And I think that is such a wonderful job to be in, right? We're effectively restoring the trust, because guess what? They have to adhere to this compliance. And it's not only just the brands within the EU, it's if you sell products within the EU as well. So it's actually lots of the clients brands we're speaking to are in Asia, Australia, in the US, and they're outside of these regions, but because they have stockists here. So and some of the brands that we speak to have got such fantastic sustainability credentials. They're jumping in, with joy, the fact that they get to show this off. So all this really does bring into the industry is a lot of hope. And I think transparency is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So when we first heard about it, we were like, wow, this is such a big deal. So yeah, it's such a dream to be working in this space, to be honest.
Does it make things more global? So as you were saying, if you have a presence in the EU, you have to comply, right? So we live in a world that's very globalized, lots of global brands. Do you think that, although it's just for EU right now, do you think that this is going to sort of catapult most brands across the globe to kind of get on board?
There's so much ROI driven through this. It's actually beyond the compliance story. There's so many reasons as to why you would want this connected product, for your products to be connected in this way. So even if you do not have to house your product, if you don't sell your product within the EU, the mechanisms itself are so appealing that we've actually found that lots of brands are wanting to also be a part of the platform. So I think it's the kind of the mandate really pushed everyone to kind of sit up and listen. But beyond that, it's a really great story for the fashion industry at large.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying now that my wheels are spinning on greenwashing, and how it could essentially eradicate that. What about brands that aren't, that don't have great green credentials behind them? How do they navigate a world where you really can't hide anymore as your product tells the story for you?
We've seen now more and more there's information about what products and fabrics, what it means to have a fabric against your skin. And more we're seeing that that people are pushing back on synthetics, and they're pushing back on effectively well, investigating a lot more. So, what microplastics do, what it means to have workout gear on 24/7 if you're at the gym or not, what it means to be in a sauna with, your skin wrapped in plastic. And I feel like there's so much more reasons for brands to turn to more sustainable practices. And I think we'll see a massive shift in the cost of producing sustainably as well, as more and more factories are asked to deliver such the product specifications in a wider scope than they were. Using synthetics, it's cheaper, it's quicker to create a seam, it can be fused. And I feel like actually from a production level all the way to a factory level, the more and more demand, it means things get cheaper. So I do believe, and you can kind of model it, that actually if the customers demand it, then it will be more cost effective in the long run. Sustainable production won't be as expensive basically as it is now because of the demand.
If you marry up the regulation about digital product passports coming into play, you've also got the textile EPR regulation, where obviously brands are going to have to pay more if the fabrics are, not as recyclable. If it's made out of like a PVC fabric, you're going to have a higher tariff than if it's made out of a natural fiber. So that's like another thing coming into conjunction. We've kind of like called it the EU regulatory stack, where you've got your ESPR, digital product passport, ban on destroying unsold stock, and then you've got your textile EPR. So all of those things, if a brand can't burn all of their stock, they're going to want to make less garments that are more valuable, more crafted. Yeah, there's just so much that comes into it. It's really interesting.
I also think it just arms the consumer. Like, I'm a consumer forecaster in my day to day, and I think it arms them with knowledge about what they are consuming, how they're consuming it, makes them take stock a little bit, I think. And it does kind of build that bridge of trust between brand and consumer, potentially more loyalty. So I'm very energized by this. I think it's fascinating. I want to move on to design though. So how does a digital product passport and building that infrastructure change the design process from ideation and concept through to final good?
So this has been an exciting one actually, because we have had so many discussions with design teams, because there's like where the tappable point is on a garment is it means a lot, as in different to tap on the back of the neck. What does that mean? To tap on around the chest area, there's all these social dynamics that feed into that you can play with and have fun with, but also through different cultures may mean different things. So it's really interesting. Number one, the placement of it, and we've been speaking a lot about that, but also as well when it comes to the design of it. Some brands want very much it front and center, very utilitarian, you can see me, scan me, and others are very much smaller and discreet. One of the clients we were speaking to, their fabrics are very transparent. There's not much, there's not even a underline, let alone a seam that you could hide a chip in. So where does that fit? So I feel like we're also there's an opportunity for the hardware to be more and more, the hardware being NFC, RFID, or the QR code, being much more inventive or much more discreet. So we've actually been looking at lots of different solutions with that. And I will say that's a really fun, those have been really fun conversations to have with the design teams in that sense.
I want to ask also how this will transform marketing and comms. So you talked about stories and being able to embed maybe campaigns or narratives. I'm just thinking, I don't know what's possible from an infrastructure perspective, but like, does this eradicate the need to like spend hours a day on TikTok? And will you be influenced by your products rather than people? Like, how does that transform marketing and comms?
Yeah, this is one of the big things that comes up. And for year on year, it's, currently it's like 14.3% higher this year than it was last year within ad spend, but the engagement is chronically low. We're in social media fatigue. People don't want to spend much time online. It doesn't make you feel great about yourself, let alone the brain rot, the AI slot. People are spending more and more time offline. Meta are now removing ads. So as a brand, you're spending a lot of money and to place your products in front of people, or you're making content that is algorithmically that will fit algorithmically, which doesn't particularly sit with your brand narrative at all. So within the platform, it's a wonderful opportunity for you to have a silo with the customer and talk about very behind the scenes, but even on the design stages, what color you decided to go with and why. Live sound bites from those design making decisions for them possibly to feed back into, with layered co-creation, because Gen Z want to be very much at the center of the story. So we've got a part of one of the options is co-creation. But particularly when it comes to marketing spend, we absolutely believe this is a space where customers will spend more time, because you get this intimate back and forth. But also as well, there's so much opportunity to layer what you would usually deliver with your CRM system within this. Normally you can send like a happy birthday, right? Or like come into store. At London Fashion Week, we worked with a brand. They created a product, the caps weren't selling. So you can orchestrate what occurs to the product and what it can do. So effectively, we turn on the product, and we allowed the product to become the ticket for entry for the London Fashion Week party. The cap sold out. So with inventory, you can really play. You can understand so much more from a data perspective. But again, what we discussed earlier is about the idea of what does it mean to the customer as well, and having that balance of listening to the consumer and your audience, as well as delivering to them what they want and need without having to fight for their attention in those very crowded social media spaces.
Heading back into the early days of the pandemic, when Netflix said something like, they see TikTok as their competitor, right? And the attention economy that we live in now, like, could products be diverting our attention away from Netflix and podcasting and social media? Like, could we be spending more time with the ecosystem of entertainment almost around each product?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think, and being able to also curate with the brand, as in like you can choose what you want to see and what you don't, rather than it be this kind of thing that's just kind of shouting at you constantly and fighting for your attention. It's a space where you can learn more. It's like, what do I do at the weekends? What friend do I want to hang out with? Do I want to be, am I chatting to my rubber Yves Saint Laurent top this weekend? I don't know, or am I being fun and frivolous, and I'm going back to my Christopher Shannon that I've had in the wardrobe. Oh, Christopher, pulling him out again and having a chat and seeing what else is going on in his world sphere, or seeing who else has that archival Christopher Shannon collection from 2006 that I do. I might want to meet up with them or do a trade in. It opens up those avenues for community connection and like authentic conversations, rather than in that crowded space that's really like your attention.
It is fascinating. I just think it's amazing. And then you could also have deeper relationships with brands in this way. Like, you're having emotional relationships with brands because you're engaging at your leisure, and you're learning, as you said, you're engaging, you're potentially connecting. It really touches on so many sort of macro themes and ideas that we forecast. So it's so fascinating. Lastly, I just want to ask about resale, royalties, circularity of it all. How, say I'm just an average 20-something consumer shopping at, a typical brand, right? I'm buying fashion. What is my experience with the resale market as DPPs become embedded into your clothing?
The resale market at the moment is, projected for 2030 is £393 billion, which is insane. And I think I did read somewhere about the fact that it kind of feels like that is massive, but to the individual person, it feels quite siloed. Of like, a lot of people feel quite like bogged down with it. Like, I've got all of these clothes and I could kind of get into that, but there's just so much, like, it's not seamless at the moment. Like, people don't know how to value their stuff. They don't know how to prove that it's real. Often it's not. So with DPP, it's the fact that this journey just becomes so much more seamless. Even before you've brought the product, you can know already that this will be able to be resold should I want to. And then the simple tap and then the resale of it, you can see how much it's valued for. And it's brand owned resale. So you know for sure that it's coming from the place, from the brand, so it's authentic.
Does it unlock a new era of entrepreneurship for young fashion owners, people interested in exploring what could come next for their garment?
One interesting point, we've been speaking to lots of like PR teams, like global PRs that do a lot of work for brands, as in like product placement. And, you know, they send like a link to, you know, a site which has all of the kind of data, or they send them a PDF of who's worn it and their social media links, etc. But I think like with resale, if somebody, if you can see before you buy the item as well, like the ownership, but if the ownership starts with, it also has all the editorials it's been in and all of the amazing people who have worn it. And then if you think beyond that, there's this opportunity for this idea that if somebody wore a garment out in the wild, you know, an influencer or a celebrity, how it could spike and go up. I think there's lots of opportunity for you to, of course, like earn money to be able to have products and have it as part of your like asset system, one. But then as a brand and also as an individual, the more social and cultural currency that product has, the more it's worth. There's so many interesting ways in which the customer, the marketeer, the brand, the PR teams, all are earning and from this new trajectory, but also making it easier for them all. I feel like everyone works really hard in all these silos at the moment. And actually what we've built is it connects it all in this really smooth constellation where everyone can earn a bit more, but they're doing it in a much more seamless way. And that's what we really get excited about. And that's why we don't sleep that much at the moment.
Yeah, totally fair. Well, that was so interesting. But to wrap up, I always ask all of the guests, who is somebody, or it could be a business, a person, an idea that's creating a new version of tomorrow that you find deeply inspiring. So Kat, we'll come to you first. Who's your pick?
I think Mia McGrath, who is basically empowering young women, young people actually, just how to like literally understand finance. I think that's like the hottest thing ever. And she just like delivers it in such like a clear, just really digestible way. So big up Mia.
Yeah, great. Leanne, what about you?
I think there's two women that I've really known for a while now, and they're just doing some, you know, really big work, like from government all the way through to like helping individuals. And it's like very much like about female empowerment. It's Dr. Anino, who has she founded 100 Women of Davos that I'm part of, and it was just so empowering to see something that was like lacking, right? There wasn't even 100 women at Davos. Like, what can we do to change that? I spoke about IoDF at the World Economic Forum at Davos. It was just so empowering to be with these group of women that were just really pushing for change. So I just really appreciate all of her work that she constantly delivered. And then Ashumi, who founded Women in Tech, who is just, she works again across so many diverse sections of the globe that just empower women of all through different regions to get involved in technology, build companies or within tech, but also how you can get started and just look at more like STEAM kind of career paths, and just like wonderfully inspiring women who are constantly doing things and constantly shaping like the future of our world today. Yeah, just they're pretty amazing.
Thank you to my guests, Kat Taylor and Leanne Young, co-founders of London-based tech company IoDF. If you're a WGSN subscriber, look out for more trends at WGSN.com. And if you're not a subscriber, please come and discover our services. We'll be back with our next episode soon. In the meantime, you can catch the CEO of WGSN, Carla Buzzacchi, next week on our other podcast, Lives of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli. Be sure to follow to this podcast and see you next time.